Hey there, my name is Lindsay Brandon, and I am the CEO and owner of Permaculture Canada and Armagarden. And I'm here to introduce what we do to you today. And I'm just going to walk around my food forest that I planted out at my parents' acreage while I do this. And I'll tell you all about what we do at Permaculture Canada. So, as I mentioned, I have two companies. The first one being Permaculture Canada is in outward moving energies. So I'm working with the dynamic of covering the bases of energy, both moving inwards and outwards. So Permaculture Canada is energy moving outwards. So we're thinking more feminine, more all-encompassing, more, kind of like an envelope, we'll say. And we're looking at ecosystem restoration. We're looking at educating others about permaculture. We're doing design services for people, whether it's in their homes or for their schools or their community organizations. And we're also looking at making specific educational programming for different demographics. With Armagarden, that's more about the inward moving energy. So my house, my yard, my community. And this is more focused for people that are already in it, already in the homestead world, understand what it takes to be a homesteader. Some may fall in what you would call the prepper category. So they are ready to do the lifestyle, they want that lifestyle, and they're happy to do the work because that's the lifestyle that they want to lead. So with Permaculture Canada, again, going back to that, I was inspired by a piece of writing in a book by Peter McCoy, who wrote the book Radical Permaculture. And I'm super excited because I'm actually going to be meeting him in September. I've been invited to do a talk there on permaculture, so I'm going to get to meet the author firsthand. And what's fascinating about this whole synchronicity is I received his book and I read in there about a species of mushroom called the glomeromycota. And I have a little video on my Instagram about that sort of combination of how Permaculture Canada is a reflection of this specific species in the queendom, the glomeromycota. Now, what is that? That's a mushroom, a species of mushroom from the queendom. We'll say a fungi, a mycelia, that will manifest in whatever species the environment lends well to. So it's a shapeshifter. It can be one of thousands of species. Now, when I learned about this, it just blew my mind that this is even possible, that this sort of thing exists. And it really, opened up my mind to the possibility of that shapeshifter ability. And this is what I thought, how I'd like to show up in the world with my design firm at Permaculture Canada, because we don't have a set box that we fit into. We don't have this, set list of products or offerings or whatnot. We are able to fluidly move and adapt to what is being asked of us based on the property and the person. So we can offer permaculture solutions in a number of ways. Of course, digital design and permaculture design, regenerative design is what we specialize in. There are 9 designers on the team. And we also have 3 support staff, which I refer to as the nebula. One of them being a climate software creator, one of them being a soil scientist and consultant, and the other being an artist and a human resources specialist, a mental wellness specialist, because I really wanted to set up the team for success and make sure that everybody was feeling supported. So I have a background in permaculture design. I used to run a team out of Florida that was called Food Forest Abundance. So that was a design team with 40 designers from all over the world. And we did a lot of work there, permaculture demonstration sites, urban design. We did what were called Freedom Farm Academies. We did, a number of TV shows. I had a lot of opportunities to do some online summits with people like Darren O'Lean and Barat. It was wonderful, really. I was exposed to a huge demographic of people and types of people that were at different stages in the game in terms of knowing how to grow food. So it really opened up my perspective in terms of working with people and meeting them where they're at about growing food and about their perception about permaculture as well. I think one thing I'd like to preamp with that I learned from that is, working with permaculture, it's holistic systems design. We're not isolating components of a property. We're not doing monoculture cropping. Of course, we're working with polycultures. We're increasing diversity. We're maximizing water infiltration. We're looking at, our strengths and our weaknesses, and we're observing the land and the patterns. But one thing that I found was a common misconception was with food forestry, we'll say, is that you just kind of like plant it and forget it. And that's really not what this is all about. Of course, you do, plant things, and over time, it establishes and requires less maintenance, which is wonderful. But of course, just like a child would require some extra care in the first few years, so would your food forest. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I'm out here, monoculture crops at their finest in Alberta. Yeah, this is what we need to change here, is right here. So that's another part of Permaculture Canada, right? Is looking at how are we farming right now, and how are farmers looking at their fields, and what is our understanding of the soil, and how can we maximize our yields, right? So there's a lot of potential in terms of broadacre farming practices in all over Canada, looking at the water, looking at the topography, so the movement of the land, the shape of the land, working with the land. How can we plant on that curvature of the land to maximize water infiltration and things like exposure? And really, there's so many opportunities for us to make large-scale change, integrating livestock into these giant farmers' fields, integrating edible trees, edible medicinals, bands of them, running animals through them. And go ahead and run your grains and all of that if you want to. But there's no reason why we don't have more perennial plantings on these giant open fields, right? Just thousands of kilometers of these open fields. Like, look back behind me, like where I am, we can see 5 different weather patterns in the sky often. One storm over there, sunshine over there. It's quite beautiful, but there's no diversity, right? So that leaves farmers in a place of weakness, right? If they lose one crop to one species of pest or whatnot, what do they have left? So we can work with polycultures, and we can put in bands of edible and medicinal plants along with these grains to, then they have multiple harvests throughout the year, and they have resiliency, and we can start to create, more yield, more products, more opportunities for people to be earning a good income from that. So many things that I could cover with permaculture. Honestly, there's, in the textbook written by Bill Mollison, 1978, year I was born, he goes over all the different topics and what it covers and all the different things that we look at. And it's really quite diverse, and it's a pretty deep topic. So I'm not going to get into every single one of those aspects. But I will say, when I started with permaculture, I realized this is not a one-person type of occupation. I really wanted to be with a team of people, and how could you ever, design it all yourself? And sure, you could design it all, but I always feel like, bridging your ideas with others is awesome, and polyculture your ideas is always awesome. You're always going to get more yield out of more diversification. So super blessed, really excited about the team that I have at Permaculture Canada. We're able to do lots of work together, and we're aligned with integrity, and we want to work with people who are aligned with that same vision of coming from an ethical place, wanting to make change in the world for the right reasons, and just really actually living the lifestyle ourselves. So all the designers on the team, we all have pieces of property, or we're managing our family's land or friends or whatnot. We are able to integrate into our communities and offer our education. And really, that's what I'm trying to proliferate in the world, is how can we get more people doing what we're doing? You don't have to do it as a job, of course. All of us are, but if we can educate others, the permaculture principles are easily applied to any property. So teaching others how to see the way that we see, how to look at land, how to recognize the patterns, and how to take the permaculture principles and ethics and apply them to your lifestyle and your land at the same time. So these are the sorts of talks that I'll be doing in Oregon in September, kind of about that, these basics of permaculture, things like what is a guild, what is a food forest, what are those layers, and what does this all mean, and what's a swale, how do you look at topography, all these things. So I'm doing another talk as well at Motion Notion in mid-August about the same thing. And I'm just really excited to get the word out and just speak from my experience of what I've done in the world. So here's another project here. This is my mom's garden. So I've come here this year to expand it a little bit. All along down the fence where I was walking there before, it was we planted 30 or so fruit bushes and berries and medicinal plants, of course, to gild them all up. Garden's looking pretty good. Wanted to make sure I came in to check it out while she's out of town, and I haven't actually seen this garden over here. This is a mock design that I'm working on for a demonstration site in Kansas. Oh, here it is here. So you can't really see the circles, but this is what is known as, like the he, she, or the girl, guy garden. And it's basically, the design is 3 concentric circles in the front, and then there's 3 in the back as well. And we're utilizing plants for stages of life. So, what are the stages of life that we go through as humans, right? We're children, and we have certain things that we go through in terms of our health when we're young, and then again, as we mature into teenagers, and then later on in life. And it's really interesting, as I research this, I'm working with a lady called the Combat Midwife to design the plant specifics for these circular gardens. And when we were doing the research initially, it was really interesting to find out that there's a lot of the same plants, that kind of work for both men and women, of course, through those stages of life. Yeah, so that's just a little piece about that garden. Now, I've got 13 minutes in there. Let's give you a little bit of rundown about Armagarden. Armagarden was born from my trip to Kansas in June, where I spoke at the Midwest Preparedness Festival. And that's where it was like, prepper meets hippie, Lindsay over here, talking about energy and everything like that. And of course, I was a little skeptical to bring up the spiritual aspect of myself and in front of this group of people, but it was actually really well received. And, the person that I was working for, Tag Meyer, who I'm still designing for, he said, he couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe the bridge that was created between the 2 different types of people. And, saw lots of potential there. And really, Armagarden was born at that festival. I saw that there was a need for this, where there's a lot of homesteaders out there, and preppers, we'll say, or whatever you want to call them. People that are in the business of, taking care of themselves. Self-reliant folk, we'll say. And I saw that, they have these basic understandings of how to homestead, but that permaculture piece isn't there, right? And a lot of us, when we learned how to garden, it was how grandma did it. And bless grandma, but she just didn't know, right? And maybe she did. Maybe she had some excellent tips for us. But a lot of our grandmothers were also informed by the chemical industry and whatnot. So, having open black dirt and perfect rows and things like this was the norm, right? Weeding it, having it just beautiful. But that dirt, like having soil exposed, that alone is a big not so good, right? So anyways, Armagarden is a model for communities, and it's more than a permaculture demonstration site. It is a community integrator, because with this piece, having community is of utmost importance. And a lot of people are asking for eco-community project design ideas, and I love it, and I'm collaborating with people from Portugal and all over the world to do that sort of thing. But the peopling part, that's the trick, right? Learning the peopling part. And also, having the tools for people to create community if they don't have community already. It's really essential that you try to create that element for yourself. If you're going to be isolated really far away and you want to be able to be more self-reliant, you're going to need a lot of people from various different backgrounds to do that. So the Armagarden model has a venue for festival grounds within the property. It has alternative housing options. It has off-grid power. It has animal integration. It has food forestry. It has water capture. All those things, that I could touch on in a much longer talk about what permaculture is. Yeah, so that kind of gives you a rundown of the two companies and some of the offerings that we're doing. And I mentioned I'm doing a couple talks, and I'm doing a lot of touring right now. I'm making a ton of networking opportunities for myself and for others as well, as I learn, who's doing what in Canada. So when I started off, and it was just a few months ago when I just decided, what, I'm had a great experience at Food Forest Abundance. I learned a lot. I loved running the team from all over the place. I loved working, projects in Ghana and all over the US. I got to travel a lot, but I really felt this longing for home and this sense of, well, it's great that I know all these people from all over the world, but who's around me, right? Bioregionally, who are my people? So I've been doing a lot of trips to Edmonton. I've been doing hemp tours. I have the third one is lining up for October. And of course in BC, into the interior, into the Kootenays, into my favorite places that are pretty close to Calgary for me, so I can go back and forth and create some connections and relationships with people nearby. Maybe one last thing I'll just mention is something that's really exciting for me right now that's kind of come of all this networking opportunity, and the genesis of Permaculture Canada is home. I personally, I'm still renting. I have this longing for home. Where is home? Where is home going to be? And I think because I have this internal longing inside of me for home, it's calling in a home project for us. And I'm really attracting right now people that are building with hempcrete, and people that are doing earthen buildings, and people with very specific skills around housing. So I'm looking at doing a partnership with some people, which I can't say much about just yet. But creating a home team is something that's really hot ticket item for me right now, because all of a sudden it's people from this sort of very fine-tuned topic are coming to me. And I can't wait to weave the web between all of them and to come up with what we're coming up with right now. Is very exciting. So I'm just going to drop that as a little teaser. If you want to find out more about what I do, you can find us at Permaculture Canada. And you can find us at their TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Facebook does have a group that's called Permaculture Canada with thousands of people in it. That's not me, that's somebody else. I barely use the Facebook one, but it's there. Also, on LinkedIn, of course. I have a private Telegram chat. So I'll try to put all the links in a note here for Jen to add for everybody. And my website's permaculturecanada.world, because we're based in Canada, but we're serving worldwide. And then there's armagarden.world as well, which is basically just a landing page for now. It's launching on August 9th, so maybe by the time you see this, it's already launched, and I've got at least a landing page there to start. And you can also find Armagarden on Instagram and all the things. Yeah, but if you're interested in permaculture, if you'd like more information about education, if you're looking for design, if you want us to do a site visit, if you'd like us to come do a talk in your community, if you're a foodie and you want to talk about agrotourism, hit us up. If you've got hemp builders, you've got somebody you think I should network with, send them my way. Yeah, blessings to everybody, and thank you, Jen, for having me on your summit, and congratulations to you. And yeah, just sending lots of love to everybody out in the world. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful summer.